I had one player tend to hit short. I was just working with a player the other day. I work a lot now with senior players. I guess that's where I'm at these days. But he had, for years and years, he's been #1 in the world at his age group, Charlie Hobo. But he's starting to lose because he hits the ball too short. He slices everything like this. Anybody ever see Charlie play on one of the Nike camps? I mean, you look at him play and go, how can this guy win? But he moves like a cat, keeps the ball in play. His problem, he was hitting everything short. So we drew a line right here and said, anything that lands short of that line, you lose the point. Let's play. And of course, he floundered for a while until finally, now he's hitting the ball really deep. I changed the environment, created a new experience. So single strategy is really about finding ways to change people, alter their game source by creating new rules, new ways of playing, and changing the experience. Creating a successful experience. Not an easy task in some cases. So we have to look through. Again, everybody's different here. You have different levels of players, different athletes, different ways of doing strategy for them. But as I mentioned, there are 3 ways of getting there. First, you look at their physical game, their physical capability, you look at their technical stroke production, and then you look lastly at their tactics, their strategy, what they do, and try to develop it. Sequence if you possibly can. Because there's so many different individual players, because there's so many types of players out there, there is no cookie cutter answer for it. You have to work with each one and find out what they need. So after they play, ask them these 2 questions, which are really important questions. What do you do well on the court during that match? Not what you did wrong, what you do well. Does anybody, and this is not just positive thinking, this is not something I got from, some psychological thing. Why do you ask them what's going to do well first? Earlier on, someone said about saying, Ken said about saying 4 nice things about someone. But the reason you ask them is that the frame of mind, okay, let me go back. You're taking a math test, and you get to that question number 7, and you can't answer it. What do they tell you to do? Skip and go on. Why? Because the process of thinking has now actually added a chemical to the brain that causes you to have issues. The same is true with kids. When you ask them what they did wrong first, or ask them just it's simple to analyze their match, the first thing that happens up here is that there's a little clicking going on that's going, now they're stubborn, now they're having a problem. Because they're looking through things in a hard way. They're trying to find solutions, answers that may not have been achievable or maybe in conflict to how they really are. But if you ask them what they did well, not how they played, what they did well, how did you play your best in that singles match? You'll get as a response from them. They may say, well, I was getting a lot of second serves in, or maybe it's, I came to net a lot. And you'll get a nice thing that they can latch on to. Now because you have them thinking and literally chemically working towards having a better relationship with their thought process, now you can take the next step. Yes?
What if you ask them, what if they did well, which I've done, and they say nothing?
You know what? I don't want to be sick. But listen, actually, that's okay. I would actually come back and say, at least that tells me you're in touch with your game. I can spin things, that works. You sell. You can always go back and say something more esoteric and get away with it. But you're going to have occasionally someone who has that negative mentality. But I think, for instance, I used to have a girl that was somewhat similar to that, very hard on herself. She was that way because the father was very hard on her. So she criticized herself first and gave her father nowhere to go. So that's what she was really smart that way. Figured out that she just said first bad about her, but that would be yeah. So the thing is that you kind of learn that that's one thing you can do is find something positive there in some way and say, I watched you were, some of those points you were playing us on deuce and add in like that, you were playing really smart on. You got consistent. And you start talking about access towards what they do. Because singles is a very interesting one-on-one game. I've been in big opposition of coaching by players during matches. I have some exceptions. I think college works well because it's still part of the educational process. And the reason is that I think that problem solving is creating autonomy, like what I like to call it, is very important. Don't worry, if it starts to rain, this lecture's over. But the thing is that what I think that singles has something that's offered that's so unique, it's so different than any other sport. You kind of get out there and survive and die on your own. you have to problem solve on your own, or solutions on your own. But what I discovered in having people develop great singles games through the years is that those who I allowed to feel that they were in control of themselves were the ones that eventually did the best. What do you think Lindell has done for Murray? Right? He sits there very calm like this. You're on your own, kid. By the way, that's totally opposite of his character. He's a joker. He likes to screw around. He's the first guy that would pants you in the gym. I mean, you know. So but he knew that that persona would make Murray straighten up. Meanwhile, the other coaches that he had before going, this going crazy on that, and he's feeding off that and going crazy too. Look how much calmer he is, because he's got that example. But what really has happened is he's been given autonomy out there now. He knows he's on his own, so he acts that way. And that's a very important thing. Get these people to think out there on their own as players, and they solve their own problems. So when the person comes on and says, what do you think you did well? And they'll say this or that, and then you go, now, how can we improve in some other areas? And you follow through with that. Let's be more specific now in singles. Let's talk about, by the way, the last chapter of the book is the one in Down Your Alley. There's two books I'm giving you. There's one called Down Your Alley, which has all the drills, a little bit of explanation about each area of the game. The last chapter is on singles, and I wrote a whole list of what I call postulates of playing singles, things you've got to learn to do in singles. The other book I added on there is the latest book I wrote called Playing Into the Sunset, which is an instructional manual for senior players. I just put that in there because, let's face it, we're all seniors now, okay? So, it was my, and I am. So I just thought I'd add that. There's some strategy in there as well. But getting back to a part of the game of singles that I think is very key is in serving. And the reason serving is so important is because it's the first shot that hit. It's the only shot you have a chance to really think about before you do. Right? Everything else is reactionary for the most part. And what's key to understand here, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, the second serve, whoever invented this game had a bit of a sense of humor. You know, I'll give these guys two serves so they can make a fool of themselves with one of them. So they give you two serves, and you see these people go out there blasting that first ball, and then the second ball looks like it's going to interfere with the migrational path of the local birds. So they bash away the first time out, and then they hit the second serve. And I tell these people, I said, you know what you're doing? You're allowing yourself to experience the one shot over and over again that always follows failure, right? It's the first serve, hit the second serve, that's following failure. So mentally you're beating yourself up. So I try to get my singles players to realize that instead of blasting the first serve, it's better just to spin her in. There's that first serve. How about that? Let them have to spin it in and play the point out if they can't hit the spin. Or just put the ball in play. So they said, well, that's really hard to do. I said, okay, here's the deal. I want you to play your next challenge match. I'll make it a tough one. And here's the rules. You play a game, you only have 8 serves to win the game. That's it. Some better players, I said 6. So you better not miss first serve, because you're going to run out of bullets. Can't tell you how often these people will get to 30 on and go, oh, I just lost the game. You don't have any serves left. Teach them to get the first serve in, right? Change the rules. Scoring-wise, I always love doing that, and emotional. My dad did this for me. He was a clinical psychologist. I went to him one time and I said, Dad, you never had anything to do with my tests. I remember calling up, I was 14 years old, I made it to the round of 16 in the Nationals in the 60s, and I just beat a top player. I called him up and I said, Dad, I made it. Right. He says, well, that's good for you, son. So when are you going to be home for dinner? And I go, Dad, I'm 250,000 miles away or whatever. The time Steve and I know I was there. But he used to, he finally came to me because I said I got frustrated when I played. I had problems. He said, here, take this. What is it? Just a couple of pennies. Put them in your left pocket. What the heck? Put them on. He says, now when you go out and play next time, anytime something goes bad, what's that cost you a penny? Take it from this pocket, put it in this pocket. Okay. So I'm playing a match, and you know how it is. You play a couple of times. There's just a couple of points. So I'm playing like this, and this guy makes a call that's sketchy. So I just said, okay, no big deal. One penny over here. I got through it. Eventually, I learned to get through matches like that. Another exercise that gave me a positive experience at the end. The other thing I do with my kids, and I did this for one kid who was going to play in Kalamazoo, which is, you don't know where the Nationals 16th and 18th are up. he was going to play a kid who I knew was going to hook him, as we said. You hear that a lot from either the parents first or the kids. They cheat, you know. So I said, well, you got to get used to it. You got to toughen up a little bit because people make bad calls. It happens. The day people stop making bad calls will be the day that people hit the ball square every time. It's just going to happen. They don't see the ball well. Here's what you do. Let's play a tiebreaker. You two guys play, and each one of you have one bad call you can make. Let's play each other. And I had him do this a couple of times. He was teary-eyed because I played him. He's up 5-4 in the tiebreaker. It's a beautiful passing shot by me. I'm doing this. I go this far in. I go, ow. And I swear he started to tear up. And then I said, what's wrong? He says, that's good. My coach is so good. Emotional scar forever. And then I'll put some cream on it. It'll go away. So the thing is, that I had him experience it enough that finally he played this guy. I don't want to say his name, but it was Pilot, right? Remember Pilot? He played, and he was notorious for it. Made a bad call in a tiebreaker, and it was right there. And John Simonson, the kid of teaching, went like this, big deal. Went back, won that tiebreaker. What a change. I remember his father came to me and said, what'd you do? I said, I toughened him up. I gave him a positive experience, or I took a negative experience and taught him how to turn it into a positive experience, right? Change the rules, change the game. It's fun to do. I'm not going to take a whole heck of a lot of time here because they're a little short. A couple things I want to do before I field some questions. One of the experiences I had was putting together a team, a high school team in Arroyo Grande. I moved there, as you heard me early on, I was moving around. I don't know why, but that happened. Maybe my dad wasn't like this. But I went to Arroyo Grande, and there wasn't much of a team. So my brother, older brother, this is junior year, started putting together a team. And so what we did is we said to the people, if you want to be on the team, we're going to have tryouts. And they're going to be at the end of this month. And the only people who will be on the team will be people who can put the ball in play and rally with us at least 50 times. That's how we set it up. By my senior year, 1968, Arroyo Grande set a national record of shutting out every single team high school we played. Every one. I'm not saying we shut them out 7-0. 6-0, 6-0, 6-0, 6-0, right down the line. It's in Sports Illustrated. When we came to our last match against San Luis Obispo, there was over 450 people there to see us lose a game. A game. Not a match, not a set, a game. These kids would never miss a ball. We had this thing that we put on the wall. We called it the quota system. And the kids, again, just the nature of the area, you know, they just played. And there would be a mark. And the marks you'd see like 825, Stephen Larry, or Lambert brothers, 1,022. That was how many balls they could hit in a row. Everybody kept posting how many balls they hit. Think about that. That's ridiculous. Danny Lambert, who started when he was a freshman, won the National Hard Courts, Public Courts, I think he was a senior. And his problem was he was too conservative. So for him, what I did was I'd have him play challenge matches, and I would take a boxed out area in the middle, and I said, after the first ball, this is out. And I remember he did that for almost a year with him. And I can recall one of the opposing coaches said, that kid hit so many winners. How'd you get it to be so aggressive? Easy. He had no choice. He had to hit the ball aggressively. Again, change the rules again. So that's my story about working with high school people. I was very proud of it. We went to CIF. We even beat San Marcos, was it? Which was great because they all came up in their limousines to our black asphalt courts that had steel nets, and we had to weed them once a week. And it had vines on the back of the courts. I'll never forget that. And you had to really watch the ball because it would go in. No matter how well you watched it go in, it'd take you 10 minutes to find it. It would just disappear in there, like ate them up. So it was. I believe that getting back to the fundamentals of what you need to do for any players, consistently. Never miss a ball, and that's not that hard to do. These new soft balls can be very helpful for that, to get them started with, okay? Okay, so I'm going to spend a little time here going over some questions, fielding some questions. Is there anything at all? Yes?
You said 2 questions to ask the players. One was, what's and the second question is, how can we,
what can we do to improve in other areas? That's
Right. Basically, give them choice. Give them